When I was talking to Snoop one time, he said that he asked Eminem and them to get on his song, like to get on his album, and they told him no.
Eminem, the great white hope. White rappers had zero respect in rap. When you talking about this hip hop that I can't live without, I can live without that.
I think it was more about the tone he was using that caught me off guard, because I'm like, yo, where is this coming from? I just saw you, like, what the fuck? I probably could have got past the whole tone and everything, but it was the last statement when he said, as far as music I can live without, I can live without that. Now you're being disrespectful for, like, it just caught me off guard.
If there was a college for Dr. Dre students, Eminem and Snoop Dogg would definitely be two of its most successful alumni. But even though they were both part of Dre's all-star squad, they weren't exactly the best of friends.
I didn't know what to do about it at first, because it confused me, because I'm like, yo, bro, same team. We're on the same team. Like, what the fuck?
In fact, it took a near-death experience involving Dre for these two hip-hop legends to finally squash their beef. So what really went down between them? Eminem versus Snoop Dogg. Eminem's The Marshall Mathers LP dropped in 2000 and instantly cemented itself as one of the greatest rap albums of all time. Not only did it showcase some of the best solo rap tracks ever, but the features on that album were just as iconic. One standout collaboration was Be Pleased 2, which brought together a dream team: Dr. Dre, Exhibit, Nate Dogg, and of course, Snoop Dogg. The track was a certified banger and fans loved it. Naturally, after hearing that lineup, people started hoping for a Be Pleased 3. And for a moment, it looked like it could happen. Right after the album dropped, Eminem and Snoop went on the Up in Smoke tour together. The chemistry was there, the momentum was high, and fans were optimistic that these two could keep working together. But oddly enough, after the tour, the collaborations just stopped. Eminem kept working with Dre, Exhibit, and Nate Dogg over the years, but not Snoop, and for the longest time, no one really knew why. A collab between them hung in the air, but nothing came of it. Then, over 20 years later, a possible explanation finally surfaced. In a 2021 interview, Daz Dillinger, former producer at Death Row Records, dropped some behind-the-scenes info. According to Daz, Snoop had wanted a feature from Eminem, especially after the success of Be Pleased 3, and it felt like he deserved one. But apparently, M turned him down, and Snoop took it personally. Daz believed that rejection is what caused a quiet tension between the two, which may have been why they stopped working together.
When I was talking to Snoop one time, he said that he asked Eminem and them to get on his song, like to get on his album, and they told him no. And Snoop felt some type of way, like, I did all this and all that, and they tell me no. And Snoop like, no, nobody tell me no.
But of course, that's just Daz's side of the story. Neither Eminem nor Snoop ever publicly confirmed it, so for all we know, it could just be speculation. And interestingly, when Eminem made his massive comeback in 2009 with Relapse and then Recovery, Snoop had nothing but good things to say about him. It's also worth noting that the time period when Snoop supposedly wanted a feature was also around the time Eminem was dealing with his addiction issues. M later admitted that those years were a dark blur for him. He wasn't in the best place mentally or creatively. He even acknowledged that his addiction damaged his relationships with a number of people in the industry. In 2018, fans got hyped when Snoop Dogg posted pictures of himself and Eminem in the studio together in Detroit. It looked like the long-awaited collab was finally happening. After years of silence and speculation, this was the moment everyone thought the two legends were finally back on the same page. But just when it seemed like things were cool again, everything flipped. Fast forward to July 2020, Snoop appeared on The Breakfast Club and dropped a bomb that no one really saw coming. At first, it sounded like he was showing love, agreeing that Eminem was one of the best MCs, but then came the curveball. Snoop went on to say that M was never making it to his top 10 list of rappers. And to make things worse, he added that Eminem's music is something he could easily do without.
Eminem, the great white hope. White rappers had zero respect in rap.
That last part hit hard. It wasn't just a hot take, it felt dismissive, especially coming from someone who was in the same Dre-mentored circle. Fans were shocked. I mean, we're talking about Eminem here, someone with diamond-selling albums, endless accolades, a Grammy stash, and one of the most legendary rap careers ever. Snoop's comments felt like they weren't just about personal taste, they sounded like a jab at M's legacy. And of course, Eminem wasn't going to just let that slide. In December 2020, Eminem dropped Music to Be Murdered By, Side B, and on the track Zeus, he addressed Snoop directly. And as far as squashing beef, I'm used to people knocking me, but just in my camp and diplomatic as I'm trying to be. Last thing I need is Snoop Dogg in me. Man, dog, you were like a damn god to me. Nah, not really, I had dog backwards.
Diplomatic as I'm trying to be, last thing I need is Snoop Dogg in me. Man, dog, you was like a damn god to me. Nah, not really. I had dog backwards, but I'm starting to...
And just like that, a full-blown beef was brewing. Fans started choosing sides, some sticking with the OG Snoop, others riding for M no matter what. Snoop didn't respond immediately, but when he finally did, it was through a cryptic post on Instagram that read, "Pray I don't answer that soft-ass-ish." That alone was enough to stir the pot, but then he went a step further and hopped on IG Live, previewing an unreleased track that sounded very much like a diss aimed at Eminem. Right at the start of the song, Snoop drops the line, "That dude better leave me alone," and then goes on to mention M's albums.
Talk that shit to me. That nigga better leave me alone.
Now here's where it gets interesting. That diss track never dropped. It disappeared as fast as it came. And shortly after, in January 2021, everything changed. Dr. Dre suffered a brain aneurysm, a life-threatening condition that left the hip-hop community shaken. Thankfully, Dr. Dre pulled through. He was hospitalized for about 2 weeks, and while it was a scary time for everyone close to him, it also served as a major wake-up call, especially for Eminem and Snoop Dogg. In a later interview, Eminem admitted that Dre's health scare made them realize how pointless their feud really was. Life's too short for that kind of energy.
When that thing happened with Dre, the brain aneurysm thing.
Yeah, Dre got sick.
We were like, bro, this is stupid. This is stupid as hell to be feuding right now. So I don't remember if I called him or he called me. I can't remember, but
yeah,
we talked it out.
M went on to say they had a real conversation about everything. They talked it out like grown men and squashed the beef for good. He explained that there had been some kind of miscommunication between their camps. Apparently, it turned out Snoop expected a favor from M after appearing on Be Pleased 2, and when that didn't happen, Snoop's team took it personally.
I think that there was a miscommunication at the time in regards to him being on my album, the Mathers LP, Bitch Please 2, and I think he had wanted to do something with me, and you said something to the effect of, well, let's hear what the song is first. You know, let's see what the type of song is. And I think he said the way that he took it was kind of like that I don't fuck with him.
That tension lingered for years without either side really addressing it. So while Daz Dillinger's claims sounded like pure speculation at first, it turns out there was actually a little truth to what he said. Snoop also opened up about the situation in an interview not long after. He made it clear that he had nothing but love for Eminem and admitted that his original comments were out of line. Snoop said he apologized to Eminem directly because, in his words, he knew he was wrong for saying that. Now, while it's great to see them patch things up, some fans were quick to point out that this wasn't the first time Snoop had clashed with someone from his inner circle. His history with Tupac still lingers in conversations about loyalty and friendships in hip-hop. Even Tupac himself called Snoop out on it before he died.
What about Snoop?
What about him?
It's an open, free business. But I just know he'll have more problems without us than he would with us.
First of all, Snoop Dogg's apparent betrayal may have stemmed from the very moment Tupac joined Death Row. A lot of insiders claim that Snoop was jealous when Tupac joined Death Row. Before Pac got there, Snoop was the biggest star on the label. But the moment Pac walked in, he took over, getting all the attention, and that didn't sit well with Snoop.
When Tupac joined Death Row, was Snoop jealous of Tupac joining Death Row?
Snoop definitely was a little razzled because he's used to being Snoop Dogg. And when Pac came, he demanded all the fucking attention and got it. Everybody had to move out the way when Pac got there. Okay?
And that jealousy started creeping into everything. One of the biggest moments that really broke their friendship happened after Tupac dropped Hit 'Em Up. At that point, things were already tense between Death Row and Bad Boy Records. In 1996, when they were in New York for the MTV Video Music Awards, Snoop started acting funny. First, he skipped out on a rehearsal for a planned Saturday Night Live appearance with Tupac. Then he went on a local New York radio station and publicly said, "I got nothing but love for Biggie and Puffy." Now this was obviously a huge slap in the face to Tupac, but according to insiders, Pac wasn't mad just because Snoop said he had love for Biggie. The real reason Tupac was pissed was because just a few days before, Snoop had been in the studio with him recording diss tracks aimed at Biggie and Puffy. And then out of nowhere, Snoop goes on the radio and acts like everything is cool? That felt like betrayal.
You know, Pac was angry not only because they said, not just because of that interview. A couple weeks before that, people don't know that Pac and Snoop did songs dissing Biggie. I remember hearing it. But Pac looking at it like, come on, man, you were just in LA dissing him with me. Now you on the radio saying something different. You know what I mean? So I think that triggered some type of attention.
Unfortunately, before they ever got the chance to really talk it out, Pac was killed, and Snoop would later say the reason they never patched things up was because Pac just didn't understand that he never had hate for Biggie.
You know, I don't think we was really on good terms before he died, because he didn't really understand the way. I didn't really have no hate towards Biggie. I didn't really feel like he should continue to, to get at Biggie.
But to a lot of people, that excuse doesn't make sense. If Snoop never had a problem with Biggie, then why was he in the booth making diss records with Pac in the first place? Why play both sides? A lot of people believe that he was undermining Tupac's feelings, acting like Pac was the one who overreacted. But as bad as that was, what Snoop did after Pac's death was even worse. One of the biggest betrayals came when Snoop supposedly collaborated with one of Tupac's killers, Big Dre. Big Dre was allegedly in the car when the shots that killed Pac were fired. A lot of folks point the finger at Orlando Anderson, but others believe Big Dre was the real shooter. And what did Snoop do? He worked with him. After Pac died, Big Dre started his own label, Runoff Records, and put out a mixtape called Hard White. That tape featured some big names, Warren G, MC8, and Snoop Dogg. When that news broke, people were furious. First off, where did Big Dre even get the kind of money to lock in those features? And why was Snoop working with someone who might have had something to do with Pac's death? To a lot of people, that said everything about how Snoop really felt about Pac.
Suge Knight revealing that, Snoop, he worked with Big Dre after Tupac got killed. And when I heard that, man, that was wild. For you to be working with somebody that was in the car with Keefy D when Tupac got shot, that's crazy, man.
That's crazy, bro. Like, if you know this dude 100% is in a car with a person that killed your boy and you do a song with him, it just really shows how you always felt about Pac.
But then Snoop started switching up. After getting called out, he changed his whole attitude. Suddenly, in every interview, he was praising Pac, acting like they were the best of friends. It looked like damage control, like he was trying to wash his image and make people forget the questionable moves he made after Pac's death. But even while he was praising Pac, he would still slip up. Snoop has been caught twisting the truth or straight up lying about certain moments with Tupac. For instance, Snoop has been called out for fabricating stories about his involvement in Tupac's life, like when Pac was in prison. Snoop once claimed that when Tupac was behind bars, he was in danger and facing serious issues. He went on to say he was the one who urged Suge Knight to bail Tupac out of prison to keep him safe.
Was Tupac having issues when he was in prison? Because I know Snoop, he always say that he was hearing bad things, so he told Suge Knight to get him out.
However, this story has been refuted by Napoleon, a close friend and member of Tupac's Outlaws crew. Napoleon dismissed Snoop's tale, stating that Tupac was actually well-liked in prison, making friends and taking pictures with people.
But that's a false narrative that I think Snoop was pushing. You know what I mean? Pac, for a fact, he wasn't really... He had a lot of, he used to send us pictures, and his pictures on the internet where he was taking pictures with New York dudes up in Clinton. I guess people, they like to say that so then they can vouch for some other rumors that's being spread about Pac to try to put dirt on his name. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a fact that he was disliked, he was holding it down.
He mentioned that during their visits to Tupac, Pac never once mentioned feeling threatened or unsafe. According to Napoleon, although Tupac was eager to get out of prison, because let's be real, who wants to be locked up, it wasn't because Snoop asked Suge Knight to pull some strings. Snoop Dogg's tendency to embellish stories doesn't stop there. Another time he got caught in a lie was about the infamous MTV Video Music Awards incident involving Tupac and Nas. The mid-90s in New York was a wild time for hip-hop, with Nas and Biggie fighting for the title of King of New York, Jay-Z rising up, and Wu-Tang Clan making big moves. It was a competitive and intense scene. When Tupac got involved, it was like adding fuel to an already raging fire. On Nas's second album, The Message, he claimed the King of New York crown and threw shots at Biggie and Jay-Z. But somehow, Pac thought the opening line, "Fake thug, no love, you get the slug, CB4 gusto," was aimed at him. Suddenly, Nas was caught in the crossfire of Tupac's growing list of enemies alongside Biggie, Puff Daddy, and Bad Boy Records. Things were even made worse by the fact that Nas was rolling with Mobb Depp, who had their own beef with Pac. The tension between Tupac and Nas came to a head at the 1996 MTV Video Music Awards, where the two bumped into each other. Snoop Dogg later told a story about this encounter, claiming that Nas had rolled in with about 100 shooters from Queens who started to surround the Death Row crew. According to Snoop, Nas didn't want any trouble, not because he couldn't handle it, but because he chose to keep the peace. Snoop described how Pac was going off on Nas, throwing insults, completely unaware that Nas's crew had them surrounded and could have easily taken them out.
But Nas had 100 niggas with guns.
Right.
So listen to what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
By me saying he didn't want none didn't mean he didn't punk out.
Snoop's version painted Pac as a reckless hothead and Nas as a cool, collected leader. But here's the kicker. Snoop wasn't even there when this went down. According to Napoleon, who was actually there as one of Tupac's crew, Snoop's version of the story is completely off. Instead of the tense showdown Snoop described, Napoleon says Tupac and Nas were pretty respectful toward each other when they crossed paths. Pac never disrespected Nas like Snoop claimed. In fact, it was more of a mutual respect thing. They talked it out and cleared up the misunderstanding between them right there.
Pac wasn't disrespecting Nas at all. You know, I know Snoop said Pac punked Nas and then went to Snoop and said, you see how I got these New York dudes? None of that happened, bro. It was a mutual respect thing. You know, so when Pac and Nas met each other, it was nobody talking disrespect from both sides. Maybe the people behind Nas and the people behind Pac was me mugging, saying certain things, but Pac and Nas handled it like real gentlemen, real.
Pac even went as far as to promise that once he got back to LA, he would remove Nas's name from any diss tracks where it was mentioned. Sadly, Tupac was killed shortly after and never got the chance to follow through. To top it off, Napoleon also doesn't remember Snoop being there at all during this incident.
And then Pac literally told him, he said, look, I got songs dissing you. When I go back to LA, I'm gonna remove every verse that I mentioned your name in. But Pac couldn't do it because he passed away. I don't remember Snoop being there, definitely. I don't remember Snoop being there at all. Unless he was like in the cut somewhere, like, you know what I mean? When nobody saw him but him, but I don't remember him being there.
Nas himself even confirmed that Snoop got the story wrong.
I heard Snoop told the story a few times, but he had it wrong a little bit. He had said that Pac slipped him, and nobody was really there. We had a great conversation.
Another interesting thing is that not too long ago, Snoop admitted in an interview on Big Boy TV that he wasn't really a fan of Tupac's diss tracks, adding another layer to their complicated dynamic.
Even when he played Hit 'Em Up the song, I didn't like the song.
Did you feel like it was
I didn't
too
like
much?
it. Right. You buying more problems, cuz.
Napoleon and Reggie Wright Jr. were absolutely blown away by Snoop's words because apparently it was just another of Snoop's lies.
He was expressing his love for Hit 'Em Up. He was in the studio bopping his head. He was on the stage when Pac was performing it, singing the lyrics with him at the House of Blues.
Snoop's a motherfucking lie. Look at him on the stage at the House of Blues. Look at him.
Another person who fell victim to Snoop Dogg's many lies was Biggie. Snoop has always maintained that he and Biggie Smalls were cool and had a good relationship, but according to Diddy's former bodyguard Gene Deal, who spoke out in an interview on the Art of Dialogue podcast, that's not the whole story. Deal revealed that in reality, Biggie didn't like Snoop at all and had no respect for him.
Big got in that studio and said, I don't know why this Snoop's calling me. I'm not telling this I'm at.
He even questioned why Snoop's supposedly tight relationships with both Biggie and Tupac weren't more evident before they passed away. Deal suggested that Snoop's stories about being close to both Biggie and Pac are just convenient narratives for the media. But despite how things may have ended with Tupac and Biggie, he and Eminem were eventually able to squash their own issues. Since burying the hatchet, Eminem and Snoop have been on a roll. They performed together on some of the biggest stages, including the epic Super Bowl halftime show alongside Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar, and 50 Cent. It was a nostalgic, high-energy celebration of West Coast hip-hop and everything Dre helped build. Em and Snoop Dogg standing side by side felt like a full-circle moment. Then came From the D to the LBC, a full-fledged collaboration that surprised fans in the best way. Not only did they trade bars repping their hometowns, Detroit and Long Beach, but they also added a fun twist to the rollout. The song dropped with a wild animated music video and a live performance where both rappers showed off some hilarious acting skills. Since then, they've been spotted together more often, and with all this renewed chemistry between them, fans have started wondering, could Be Pleased 3 actually happen? A full-blown joint album might be a stretch, but stranger things have happened, and with the way things are going, another track or even a short EP isn't totally out of the question. But for now, fans are just happy to see these two legends on good terms again.